In the legal world, there is a combination of forces that feed a corrupt and suffocating legal system for attorneys. Law schools, law professionals, judges, and even the firms themselves for whom you work create a system, a matrix, if you will, that is nothing like what you thought when you passed the bar exam. The purpose of this podcast is to help you escape this legal matrix, leading you out of the proverbial desert to be free of the bondage of the matrix. Hosted by Bryce D. Nyer, attorney at law with over 30 years experience in the trenches of civil and criminal litigation at the state, federal, and international levels. He's a highly accomplished and resourceful legal professional, a true master of his craft, and he's here to help you get your life back. Here's your host, Bryce D. Nyer.
All right. This is Bryce D. Nyer coming at you live from Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of Fort Bragg, and we have another episode of Escape the Legal Matrix with yours truly. All right. So we're here today in the studio, and of course I have my faithful law firm mascot, Drake, our Labrador Retriever. He is in here too, so from time to time you may hear him bark for snacks and food, to which I would tell him, of course. Or you will hear him scratching, digging on the carpet. But we are here with you. So what is today's topic that we're going to talk about? Okay, this is going to get a little spicy because it is. It's a controversial topic for some, maybe for many. But guess what? I don't care. And why don't I care? Because it's my podcast, and I will talk about those things which I choose to talk about. So it has to do with this thing about religion and the courts. And the question becomes, should religion be allowed in the court at all? And if so, to what extent when we talk about religion in the law? So it kind of needs to go back and kind of start with a little bit of a history lesson. And contrary to the pundits that all think they're Matlocks and Perry Masons, you go back to the Constitution when the founders wrote it. And of course, before that, they had the Federalist Papers. But essentially, in the Constitution, there's the freedom of the exercise of religion. It doesn't say that basically, you get to take it away or it just has to go in a closet just because people don't like a particular religion. And originally, I think from based on my readings and understanding, and I've actually litigated constitutional law and actually litigated these issues all the way up to through the federal court system. One or two of the cases actually went to the U.S. Supreme Court, though I didn't argue at the U.S. Supreme Court, but I was involved in some cases about right to prayer at city council and county commission meetings. Anyway, getting back to what we're talking about, a couple hundred years ago when they sat down, they were concerned about possibly a governmental religion or a state religion. But they didn't say you couldn't have it. They didn't say you couldn't have prayer. They couldn't say that you couldn't pray for guidance and wisdom, at their official meetings. In fact, they did. And all the way through the 19th century, actually, if you read history, even in the U.S. Congress, they opened them with prayers. Now, I get it. United States, you've got a makeup of, Christians, those that practice Judaism, Islam, Buddhists, whatever. I mean, the whole gauntlet. So the key thing with the founders of our country is they were predominantly concerned about things not happening that happened in England when, for example, King Henry VIII split off from Catholicism, the Catholic Church, because he was a little irritated with the Pope because King Henry VIII didn't have a stellar reputation with wives. In fact, at least two of them he had executed. And so, there's many questions, issues why he did it. Some people think he did it because he just wanted the next side chick in line. But nonetheless, he got irritated. Then you had the Church of England being formed. And it was kind of at the behest of the royal family or the king, whoever was in charge at the time. Now, fast forward, and of course, you've had in the 20th century and now in the 21st century, all this litigation about, the separation of church and state. Okay. So everybody seems, again, to think they're a scholar on this. But the truth of the matter is, nobody ever said that you were free from hearing about religion. It's basically the Constitution says you have the freedom to exercise it, and the government can't prohibit it. Now, there are some exceptions. You can't go out there and in the middle of the street have a human sacrifice and cut somebody's heart out. I mean, there's obviously constraints on the rights under the U.S. Constitution. I mean, there just are. Just like for freedom of speech, you can't continually go into a movie theater and yell fire, 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 and people go stampeding out. Somebody gets hurt or somebody has a heart attack and dies over that. I mean, there are some restrictions, reasonable restrictions on free speech and freedom of exercise religion. So, there's going to be some things you just got to peruse through it. But I often find an amazement in this country that when you walk into the courthouse, into a courtroom, and especially in the criminal courts and the family courts, that what you see is a direct reflection of what's happening in society, what's happening in your world. And you'll see in many courts, they'll have behind the judge's bench stuff, "In God We Trust." They'll have a Bible where people can either swear or affirm. And I often wonder, if that really makes any difference, because the fact of the matter is, over my decades of practice, people go into court and lie all the time. They swear under oath on the Bible, and they still go in there and lie, get caught lying. And the reality is, most people lie to others and they lie to themselves, and they don't want to be accountable for what they did or failed to do. It's just human nature. It's what they do. So it begs the question of how much religion should really be in the courtroom. I mean, we talk about compassion and empathy and take care of the poor and the downtrodden and stuff, which are really some of the basic tenets of Christian belief, of Jesus. And yet, when you kind of look at the teachings of Jesus and what he taught and what he proclaimed, and then yet you still get some of the nutcases that attack him or attack the belief system, when in reality, if you go look at it, they're not attacking those things. They're attacking the things where Jesus says certain things are sins. And it breaks not just so much, maybe the law of your state, territory, or country, but it breaks God's law. And that's when people get pissy, when you tell them they can't do certain things. And this happens a lot, especially in certain belief or culture war things like gay marriage or transgender, and all this. And it happens because people don't like to be told from a spiritual point or, from certain religions that what they're doing is wrong. They just don't like it. They're like, who are you to judge me? And the fact of the matter is, when you walk into a courtroom, you're getting judged from the very minute your case is called, either by the judge or, if it's jury trial, by the jury trial. Everybody's judging you. Everybody's sizing you up. So, I mean, in reality, when you talk about religion, let's say you're the defendant in a criminal trial. And let's say you get convicted. Should the judge show mercy or not? Should the judge adhere to his or her religious beliefs? Should it even come into play in rendering what the sentence is going to be? And frankly, for some that may know the personality of the judge or maybe know the background, and most people don't, at least not the defendants, the lawyers do, I'm going to bet here, I'm going to take a wild guess that if the reputation of the judge is to be forgiving, have empathy, lenient, and they base it on their religion, whatever it may be, I'll bet the defendant, if it were you, are going to be like, I'm okay with that. But if the judge is like, bring the hammer down, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, that sort of saying, then maybe not so much. So I guess it comes down to how much should our religious beliefs really shape our decisions in the legal system? Now, for me, let's see. I guess I'm just kind of a very empathetic person. It doesn't mean I'm a bleeding heart liberal, but I do have a lot of empathy and compassion for people. Now, that's not to say that people are excused to do anything they want to do and write a blank check. For example, World War II, Nazi Germany, exterminating millions. Not a good thing. It was a crime against humanity. Absolutely vicious, horrible, no doubt about it. Those kind of things. For some, I guess it would may be impossible to forgive those that killed their families, or maybe they could in order for them to go on. But it didn't necessarily allow the defendants in those war crime trials to escape justice, because there's justice in this world and there's justice in the next. So again, it begs the question, how much of religious beliefs should be allowed in the courtroom, should be allowed in the practice of law? I mean, if we were to completely eliminate all religions, all of them, no matter which ones they are, from any thought process at all in any legal case, I just wonder where we would be. Would it be just like robots, AI robots, rendering sentences and judgments with no human heart, no human involvement, none of that? And I think if that were to happen, that would be very sad. It would be, I think it'd be devastating. I don't ever want to serve on a jury or go into a courtroom and be just this cold, blooded, no heart, type of human being. I mean, I can be aggressive and I can be zealous in litigation. There's no doubt about it. But at some point, we all talk about, well, we're just trying to get to the truth. But then most times when we get to the truth, in the legal system, everything is spun. It's all spin. There's not really absolute truth in the legal system, because human beings comprise the legal system. And a lot of them, regrettably, they're corrupt. And the legal profession, again, has, for the most part, sold out. Lawyers are legal mercenaries. Judges are former legal mercenaries now on the bench. And the issue is, again, what is the framework for them in their particular role as a prosecutor, as a defense counsel, or as the judge? And should any of their religious beliefs come into play at all? I mean, that's a question. You have across this nation right now a lot of the Muslims wanting Sharia law, Sharia courts. And they're a little bit harsh. In fact, they're not just a little bit, they're a lot of bit harsh. And, the issue is, do they have jurisdiction? Should they be allowed? Should they be allowed? Because clearly in those type of scenarios, religion is the key dominating force. And I'm not sure that justice is. So, that's just reality. I'm not, picking on anybody, out of everybody else. But I mean, that's just a fact of what's been happening, what's going on. And of course, you used to have, back in the day, the Spanish Inquisitions and stuff like that. And people would kind of hijack religions in order to pursue their own personal or professional lust for power or lust for money, mostly power. And then money came along with it. But you have to ask yourself, in our world today, how much of one's religion should be allowed in the courtroom, whether it's the lawyers, the jurors, or the judge? I'm just curious to hear your feedback on that. I think it's a subject to think about, because in reality, as you see the world as is now, it's a flame. You're seeing some of the three major religions, coming head to head. And whether you want to admit it or not, it's happening, and it's been happening. And it is a topic and a subject that needs to be discussed, because as I see time going forward, and as I witness what's going on in the world, and I witness what's going on in the courtrooms, and I witness my colleagues, and I witness my clients, and I witness all kinds of things in the legal system, it's clearly not just a human war here. It's a spiritual war that's going on. So, again, ask the better question: where in your world do you allow your faith to come into play when it deals with legal matters? I'd be interested to know. I'd be interested in some feedback on this. So, it's a deep topic, but I think it's an important one as the world continues to, to me, to spiral out of control. And I kind of see the handwriting on the wall. Let's see if you do too. All right, this is Bryce Nair coming at you live from Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of Fort Bragg, with another episode of Escape the Legal Matrix. Again, we're taking a different turn in this, and we're discussing more legal issues that are real, raw, and relevant, and may or may not apply to you. But I bet you one thing, it's going to stir some conversations. All right, this is Bryce Nair, and we are out of here.